Have you ever felt discouraged about your ongoing tabletop RPG? Whether you're playing Dragonbane or Dungeons and Dragons or Shadow Dark or whatever system, I'm sure any dungeon master can get to a point where they kind of go, why am I doing this? I don't know if you've experienced that, but I've been going through that feeling recently. I actually posted a video about it last week talking about I was feeling the why bother sensation. But I wanted to come back and, kind of re-interact with that idea, that why bother idea with something new, right? So have you ever felt that way and then taken a moment to think about what you as a dungeon master could do better? Do you know what I mean? Like when I actually paused and calmed down a little bit and then engaged with, okay, why are my players disengaged? I mean, obviously I can talk to them and they can say things, but that's me hoping that they actually might really know why they're disengaged. I mean, what if I ask them and they have no idea that they are disengaged? You know, I mean, then we get into some sort of metrics of subjective versus objective or whatever, right? And that's not the point of what I'm trying to get into. There is a sense that a dungeon master has, and it's one that I have, okay, because I dungeon master, and that sense is when things are going right, and maybe when things are going wrong. But when things are going right, it's kind of this feeling of ooh, this is this is it right here, right? It's riding the height of a static shock. It's pretty quick, it happens, but you can tell when you're there, and then the rest of the time you're not there. It's kind of disparate, at least so far as I've engaged with. Your experiences may vary, but for me, it has been something that's like chasing a static shock. Anyways, one of the things I've done over this last week is I've reflected on why are my players responding this way? Why are they disengaged? What is going on? But instead of blaming them with all of my frustrations, because it started that way. Initially, it started that way. They aren't doing this. They aren't doing that. It's their fault. Instead, I took some time to kind of think about, okay, what could I do better? What are some of the ways that I'm failing to connect with my players and failing to meet their goals? And one of the things that occurred to me is I have three players that I haven't really addressed any of their personal character goals. And that's my fault. But in some ways, it's also their fault. And let me. Since they have disengaged, and maybe they disengaged early on in the campaign, I didn't focus on their characters. And since when we were doing town stuff or adventure stuff or random encounter stuff, since they weren't leaning into their character or playing the part of their character, I sensed them as being detached. And so I, as the dungeon master, started slowly, just not coming back to them. And then when it came to town stuff and they didn't really have anything to feed into or anything that they wanted to do, I stopped engaging them. Again, it's a mutualistic thing. And I know I can't carry the weight of the game for them, but there are certainly some things I can lead into that I have been failing to lead into. And let me highlight a couple of those ideas that I had on my ride home tonight. One of my players has a pet. This player is a wolfkin, which means they're like a wolf human, right? Like a werewolf, but not. It's a wolfkin. And they have a pet that is also a wolf, okay? And their goal for their character is to try and give sentience, like a soul, to their pet. They want to help evolve their pet in some way. And this is a storyline that I just haven't touched in on at all. So that's a failure on my part, right? As a dungeon master, maybe the way this player could have been engaged was by me playing into that desire, leaving little traces or clues or hints around the world about how to get that goal or what the steps to take, what quest line to go on, okay? But I haven't, and that's my failure. And so the fact that this player is in this place, I now consider largely my own fault. And I know that there's people who might say oh, you can't take the burden of players playing the game with you on your shoulders. And I don't think I am. I think I'm being fair in recognizing that there are some ways that I have approached this inefficiently and also incomplete. I haven't actually finished my job of the DM of engaging them. But I thought of some ways to do it, right? Another player's been chasing after this golden axe. And I really didn't know what I was going to do with this golden axe, because in their backstory, this golden axe is a super powerful god weapon. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do? I can't just give them a god weapon. But then on my ride home, I thought about how to give someone a god weapon. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's awesome, right? You make it a weapon that can do an infinite number of damage to the wielder and who it hits. It's a one-shot kill, right? It's like a boss kill weapon, but the player dies, or the character dies. Character dies. I always do that, right? Anyways, I thought about a few different ways that I could try and get some of my lower engaging players to engage better. And one of the things I realized was some of this is my fault, right? It's not all my fault, but there are things that I, as the Dungeon Master, can definitely do better to help my players nestle themselves in the strange land of the Misty Vale. And there are things that I haven't been doing enough, but I'm actually, after this week of engagement and reading people's comments from the last video, I've realized that there's a lot of people who encounter the same problem I'm encountering, and it's frustrating, right? Like, it's frustrating to you if you're a dungeon master and you have players disengaging. My point of making this video is not to say that if you've gotten to that place, you need to blame yourself. That's not it. This is a case-by-case thing, and I recognize that the fault in my particular game happens to fall on me. It's up to you to figure out whether or not there's something you could be doing better in your game. But I do recognize that the thing I'm encountering is something that's real, that a lot of other people encounter, and it's a struggle, right? It's a struggle where you have to, okay, how much of their part do I try and make my part, and how much can I do better to, you know what I mean? Like, it's a weird tug of war game. And, like, if you pull too hard, you break the whole game. And if you don't pull at all, and I'm not sure if the metaphor stands up, but you get the point. Anyways, I'm very excited to go into tonight's game because I have 3 significant ideas about how to engage my players who've been largely disengaged or have been slightly disengaged over the last few weeks. And so I'm hoping that this way of interacting helps to pull them back into the world and helps them to connect with the other player characters. We have an interesting situation that's kind of bubbled up out of our 1-1 timing. So tonight, I mentioned this in a short video I released earlier, but tonight it's kind of a simple encounter. All my players are living in this town called Outskirt, and since we're in 1-1 timing, there's a bunch of stuff that they can do in the middle of the week. Like, they can build a building or get a job or sing songs at the tavern and get to know people. And there's all these different things that my players are choosing to have their characters do. And it's been very fun engaging that way. If you don't play in 1-1 timing, I recommend you try. It's very interesting, and we've had a lot of fun with it. But in the background, there's been this forest to the south. It's about a mile away from the town, maybe a little closer. And you can see it, right? And it's all black, and it's grisly, and there's stuff growing out of it. And the backstory is that there was a troll living in that forest. And my players who were playing in our West March version of the game, like 2 players jumped in, were playing, they did something, they killed that troll who was living in that forest. That troll was like holding back the darkness, but these players didn't know. Killed the troll, now the darkness stops getting held back, forest gets corrupted, demons start popping into the world. And what's going to happen tonight, I'm speaking a little quieter because my son is inside. What's happening tonight is essentially there's an explosion where the demonic realm opens up into this forest, and 2 large ruddy towers kind of spike up into existence, and a portal is on top. The demons that come through the portal, or that come through the breach, have an objective, and that is to secure one NPC target. It's an emissary of sorts, a naturalist druid mage that has the ability to put balance into the Misty Vale. And so their objective is to grab that character. My players are going to have to make some choices, some hard choices. This is going to be a very difficult encounter. There are 7 demons, and demons in Dragonbane are a very hard creature to kill. They have high hit points, they have a lot of armor, they hit very hard, and they cause a lot of fear attacks. So it's going to be a difficult encounter for my players. I have set up the engagement in such a way that there is essentially a ticking clock. There is going to be something happening round after round. There's environmental changes that are going to be happening. I appreciate everyone who's given me feedback on the how to run combat. I'm hoping that I do combat well and quickly and properly this time, especially because we have, it's not a big scenario. There's only 7 monsters, but but they are heavy hitting kind of boss monsters unto themselves. So we'll see how this goes. It's gonna be again a difficult encounter, but my hope is that we have a little bit of time to spend on the 3 players that have been like kind of falling behind. And you know, I'm really grateful for everyone's comments on the last video talking about their bad experiences with games, because reading through all those comments helped me to realize, like, I don't want the game to end. Like, I don't. Even if my players are starting to disengage, like, I don't want to just let the thing go. And it's not because, like, I need this game to go on for me and they're going to support me, but I know we've hit that static sometimes, you know, and that static, when it hits, especially if it's like a couple weeks in a row, is wonderful. It's a great social engagement where everyone's like doing the thing together. You know, I mean, it's you're a DM and you've had it, right? You've hit that static at some point where it pops and everything kind of comes to life on its own, and then it kind of, you know, goes gradually back down, and then it pops again. And anyways, I'm here to say that I'm ready tonight to chase the static. We'll see how it goes. I'll make another video after our session's over, probably about 2 o'clock in the morning, basically letting you know how it went, and hopefully it goes well. But these 3 ideas I have for a couple of my players is really what's helping me to ride high, because I'm taking my sense of failure and putting it on myself and saying, yeah, there's some stuff I could be doing better. And I'm going to try and do those things better in a more consistent way and see if that helps us out. So I thank you so much for all your comments and your feedback and suggestions on how to be a better DM. You guys have been helping me so much. I'll let you know how things go later on tonight. God bless you. Have a great night. Bye-bye.